Hi guys, welcome to another video clip of mrlopezclasses.com. Today we are going to continue with the analysis of the oil sample, and we are going to check component by component, metal by metal dispersed in the oil sample when you receive the report. And we are going to analyze one per one. Now we are going to check what are the metals that I recommend that you need to pay attention. Number one, chromium. And we are going to check where, in what parts of the engine internally you found that chromium. In this particular case, on the valves, 12% of the valves is chromium. In the piston rings, 0.45% is on the piston rings, chromium. On the crankshaft, 0.82%, and on the camshaft, 1.4%. In other words, chromium, the component with higher content of chromium, are the valves. Okay, this is one of the elements. The second element is manganese. Magnesium. Where I found that magnesium? On the valves, 1%. On the piston rings, 0.9%. On the heat exchanger, if the heat exchanger is in copper nickel, 0.5%. In the piston, if the pistons are in aluminum, 0.8% in content is magnesium. The cylinder liner, 0.74%. In the camshaft, 0.7% is magnesium. In other words, the element with more content of magnesium in your engine are the valves. Okay, other element that we are going to analyze is carbon. Where I found that carbon? What elements have high content of carbon? According with this, the element with high content are the piston rings. Piston rings, 4%, the total weight is carbon. 3% on the cylinder liners, 3.25% on the camshaft, 0.4% on the crankshaft, and 0.4% on the valves. And now, after that, we are going to analyze metal by metal. Okay, other element that I recommend check when you receive the report of the oil is the silica. Silica. We have silica on the valves, on the piston rings, on the plain bearings, on the cylinder liners, on the camshaft, on the crankshaft. The element with high content of silica, according with this, is the piston rings, 3%. And after that, the camshaft and the cylinder liners, 2.3%. 1.7% in the crankshaft and 0.7% in the plain bearings if the bearings are imbibbed. Okay, this is silica. Other element, other metal dispersed in the oil sample that I recommend pay attention when you receive the report is tin. Tin on the plain bearings if the plain bearings are in copper, 15%. Wow, 15% of those bearings, copper bearings, are in the plain bearings, and 80% in the plain bearings if the plain bearings are imbibbed. Tin. Oh wow, this is very important. We are going to analyze that metal in details. Antimony on the plain bearings if the bearings are imbibbed, 7% of the content is antimony, and on the piston rings, 0.5% is antimony. Interesting. Other element is lead. We are going to analyze what happened with lead. We found that lead in plain bearings of copper and plain bearings of bibbed. 8% if the bearings are imbibbed, and 10% if the bearings are in copper. Lead. Lead is the lubricant. Later we are going to learn about that. Okay, other element that we are going to analyze in the oil sample is the content of copper. What happens if I have high content of copper? Okay, if you have high content of copper, probably the plain bearings are affected. If the bearings are in copper, 85% of those bearings is pure copper. Or the aluminum pistons, 1.8% is copper on the pistons if the pistons are in aluminum. If the plain bearings are imbibbed, 5% is copper. Or if it's the heat exchanger, more than 70% is copper. Those elements could be affected if you have in the report high level of that element, copper. Okay, other element is nickel. Very important, nickel. Where we found that nickel? On the valves, on the heat exchanger, on the crankshaft, on the camshaft, on the pistons, if the pistons are in aluminum. Which one is the element with the more content? Okay, in the heat exchanger, copper nickel, more than 10% is nickel. Other one is on the pistons. If the pistons are in aluminum, 1% is nickel. In the crankshaft, 185% is nickel. On the valves, 1.5%, or in the camshaft, 0.5%. Those are the components of the engine with a high content of nickel. All right. Other element that we are going to analyze is molybdenum. Once again, we have a high content of molybdenum on the valves, on the piston rings, on the crankshaft, on the camshaft, on the cylinder liners. On the valves, you found that the high content of molybdenum, 1.2%. After that, the rest of them is around 0.4% on the piston rings, cylinder liner, camshaft, and crankshaft. Great. Other element is sulfur, where we found that sulfur on the pistons, if the pistons are in aluminum alloys. Okay, the camshaft, the cylinder liner, 0.12%, on the valve, 0.03%. Basically, high content of sulfur on the aluminum pistons. And the last one is phosphorus, where I found that phosphorus on the valves, on the piston rings, on the camshaft, on the cylinder liner. The higher content is on the cylinder liner, 0.23%, and after that on the camshaft. Okay, those are the metals dispersed in the oil sample that I recommend pay attention.